I never thought I'd be called a pretender at my own son's birthday party, but life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. My hands trembled as I arranged the superhero-themed cupcakes on the display stand, each one carefully decorated with tiny Batman and Superman logos. Tommy had been talking about this party for weeks, his eyes lighting up every time he mentioned the guest list, his school friends, his cousins, and of course, the entire Martinez family. "Mommy, did you make sure Uncle Carlos is coming?" Tommy had asked just yesterday, bouncing on his toes with excitement. He promised to show me his police badge. "Yes, sweetheart," I'd assured him, swallowing the knot in my throat. Carlos, my late husband Miguel's older brother, had always been Tommy's hero. Even after Miguel's death 2 years ago, Carlos had maintained his role as the fun uncle, showing up at school events and sending birthday cards, at least until 3 months ago when everything changed. The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. I smoothed down my dark blue dress, Miguel's favorite color, and went to answer it. Maria, my mother-in-law, stood there with Carlos and his wife, Ana. The contrast between Maria's warm smile and Carlos' cold stare made my heart clench. "Feliz cumpleaños para mi nieto," Maria exclaimed, pushing past me with an enormous wrapped present. She'd always been kind to me even after Miguel's death, though lately her smile seemed strained. "Abuela," Tommy came running down the stairs, launching himself into her arms. "Is that for me?" "Of course, my amor," she laughed, but I noticed her eyes darting nervously between Carlos and me. The next hour was a blur of arrivals. Tommy's friends from school, their parents, more relatives from Miguel's side. Our modest house filled with chatter, laughter, and the excited squeals of children. I kept busy with host duties, refilling snack bowls, organizing games, making sure everyone had drinks. "Time for cake," I announced, leading the chorus of happy birthday as Tommy beamed at his Batman cake. Just as he was about to blow out the candles, Carlos' voice cut through the happy moment. "Before we continue," he said, his voice carrying across the room, "I have something to say." The atmosphere shifted instantly. Parents pulled their children closer, sensing the tension. Maria grabbed Carlos' arm, whispering something in rapid Spanish, but he shrugged her off. "We've all been too polite for too long," Carlos continued, his eyes fixed on me. "It's time someone spoke the truth about Sarah here." My throat went dry. Tommy looked between his uncle and me, confusion clouding his young face. "Carlos, please," Maria pleaded. "Not at the child's party." But Carlos was already walking toward me, his face twisted with an anger I'd never seen before. "We welcome real family here, not pretenders who married in for money." The room fell silent. Even the children stopped fidgeting, sensing the adult drama unfolding. "What do you mean, Uncle Carlos?" Tommy's small voice broke the silence. "Mommy is real family." "No mio," Carlos spat. "Your mother is nothing but a gold digger who saw an opportunity when Miguel got his inheritance. Did you all know she worked at the bank where he deposited his money? That she accidentally bumped into him the very next day, she planned it all." The accusations hit me like physical blows. Yes, I'd worked at the bank. Yes, I'd met Miguel there. But our love had been real, so real it still ached 2 years after his death. "That's not true," I whispered, but Carlos wasn't finished. "And now," he continued, his voice rising, "she's living in our family home, spending our family money, pretending she belongs here. But we know the truth, don't we, Sarah? We found the emails." My heart stopped. "What emails?" "The ones you've been sending to your sister," he sneered. "About selling the house. Our grandparents' house. The one Miguel promised would stay in the family." Tears burned in my eyes as I looked around the room. The other parents were gathering their children, making quiet excuses to leave. Maria stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. And Tommy, my sweet, sensitive boy, looked absolutely devastated. "Tommy, baby," I reached for him, but Carlos stepped between us. "Don't touch him. We'll be filing for custody next week. A real Martinez should raise him." That was the breaking point. I grabbed my car keys and my son's hand, struggling to keep my voice steady. "Party's over, everyone. Thank you for coming." As we walked out, leaving behind the untouched cake and pile of presents, I heard Carlos's final shot. "Running away proves your guilt." I buckled Tommy into his car seat, my hands shaking so badly I could barely manage the straps. He was unusually quiet, his earlier excitement completely erased. "Mommy?" he finally asked as we pulled out of the driveway. Why is Uncle Carlos so mad at you? Sometimes, baby, I manage through my tears. Grown-ups get confused about things. But I promise you, everything I've ever done was for love. Love for your father and love for you. As I drove away from our ruined party, my mind raced. The emails Carlos mentioned, they had to be the ones about possibly selling the house to pay for Tommy's medical school fund, something Miguel and I had discussed before his death. But how did Carlos get access to them, and why now, 2 years later? There was only one place that might hold answers: Miguel's home office. I'd left it untouched since his death, preserving it like a shrine. But now, with Carlos's threats hanging over us, it was time to break that seal and face whatever secrets lay within. After dropping Tommy off at my best friend Lisa's house, just for a few hours, I'd promised him, I returned home to face Miguel's office. The room still smelled faintly of his cologne and leather-bound books, exactly as he'd left it that rainy Thursday morning 2 years ago. I stood in the doorway, memories washing over me. Miguel sitting at his desk, reading bedtime stories to Tommy. The way he'd spin in his chair to pull me onto his lap whenever I brought him coffee. The proud smile on his face when he told me about his grandparents' legacy. "Mi amor," he'd said, showing me old photos of the house. "My grandparents built this place with their own hands. Every brick, every tile has a story." His eyes had sparkled. Now it's our story to continue. Wiping away tears, I forced myself to focus. The emails Carlos mentioned had to be somewhere in here. I started with Miguel's laptop, but the password I knew no longer worked. Change, but by whom? Next, I tackled the filing cabinet. Medical records, house maintenance files, Tommy's birth certificate, everything meticulously organized, just like Miguel. In the bottom drawer, I found a stack of letters tied with a faded red ribbon. My hands trembled as I recognized his grandmother's handwriting. "Mi querido Miguel," the top letter began. I'd never seen these before. "Dearest Miguel, when you read this, I will be gone. The house belongs to you now. But remember, it was never about the building. It was about the love we built inside it. Your abuelo and I started with nothing but dreams and determination. Like your Sarah. Yes, mi amor, I've seen how some in the family look at her because she came from humble beginnings. They whisper that she's not good enough, just like they whispered about me 60 years ago. But I see in her eyes the same fire I had. The desire to build something beautiful, to create a home filled with love. Trust your heart, Miguel. You chose well. Con todo mi amor. Abuela Rosa." My vision blurred with tears. Abuela Rosa had passed away just months before Miguel's accident. She'd always been kind to me, but I'd never known she'd written this. Deeper in the drawer, behind the letters, my fingers touched something cold, a small silver key I'd never seen before, taped to an envelope with my name on it. Miguel's handwriting. "For Sarah, open only if needed." Inside was a single page, dated just 1 week before his death. "Mi amor, if you're reading this, something has happened to me, and Carlos has finally shown his true colors. I've seen the way he watches our happiness, the way envy twists his heart. He's always resented that Abuela left the house to me instead of him, her eldest grandson. I've kept quiet about something to protect our family's peace. 3 months ago, I caught Carlos trying to access our private accounts. When confronted, he claimed he was just checking on the family legacy. But I saw the transfer attempts in the system logs. I've stored evidence in the old safe behind Abuela's portrait, accounts, timestamps, everything. The combination is the day we met at the bank. You see, mi amor, I never forgot. I've also left a letter with our lawyer, Mr. Patterson, detailing everything. Carlos may try to turn the family against you, but remember, you're not the pretender here. He is. Te amo siempre. Miguel." My hands shook as I walked to Abuela Rosa's portrait. Behind it, just as Miguel's letter said, was a small wall safe. I entered the date -03 to 1516, and it clicked open. Inside was a USB drive labeled Proof and another envelope, this one marked Last Will and Testament, official copy. My phone buzzed, making me jump. A text from Maria. "Carlos is coming to the house. He says he has papers. I'm so sorry, Mija." Quickly, I photographed everything I'd found, the letters, the safe contents, Miguel's note. I barely had time to return everything to its place when I heard cars pulling into the driveway. Through the office window, I watched Carlos step out of his car, waving what looked like legal documents. Behind him, Maria emerged from her car, wringing her hands. But there was a third car, one I recognized. Mr. Patterson, Miguel's lawyer, was here too. I clutched Miguel's letter in my pocket and took a deep breath. The pretender was about to be unmasked, but not in the way Carlos expected. The doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Carlos already pushing his way inside, legal papers clutched in his hand like a weapon. Maria followed, her eyes red from crying, and Mr. Patterson entered last, his face unreadable. "Where's the boy?" Carlos demanded, scanning the room. "Safe," I replied, standing straighter, away from people who would ruin his birthday party with lies. Carlos sneered. "I have proof of your schemes." He thrust the papers toward me. "Emails about selling the house. You never cared about our family's legacy." "Those emails," Mr. Patterson interrupted, stepping forward, "were between Sarah and her husband, discussing establishing a college fund for Tommy. I have the complete thread here." He pulled out his own stack of papers. Carlos's face reddened. "That's not possible. The emails I found were accessed illegally." I cut in, pulling out Miguel's letter. "Just like when you tried to transfer money from our accounts 3 months before Miguel died." The color drained from Carlos's face. Maria gasped, crossing herself. "Miguel knew," I continued, my voice growing stronger. "He kept evidence of everything, the transfer attempts, the unauthorized account access." I turned to Mr. Patterson. "Would you like to explain what's in the safe, or should I?" Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. "Actually, I have something else to share first." He opened his briefcase. "Miguel came to me 1 week before his death to update his will. He was concerned about certain family members' intentions." Carlos lunged for the briefcase, but Maria grabbed his arm. "Basta, enough," she cried. "What did my son do?" Mr. Patterson withdrew a sealed envelope. "This video was recorded in my office during that meeting." He pulled out a tablet, and suddenly Miguel's face filled the screen. My heart clenched. He looked exactly as I remembered, his kind eyes crinkled with worry. "If this video is being played," Miguel's recorded voice began, "it means my brother has done exactly what I feared. Carlos, hermano, your greed has poisoned you. I know about the gambling debts, about the money you've borrowed from loan sharks. You thought Abuela's house could save you if it were sold." Carlos staggered backward, his face ashen. Maria covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "But this house," Miguel continued, "belongs to my son and my wife. Sarah, my amor, you were never the pretender. You understood what this home really means: family, love, tradition. The emails you and I exchanged about selling, that was a test. I knew Carlos was monitoring our accounts, and I needed proof." I remembered those conversations now, how Miguel had insisted we discuss it over email, how carefully he'd worded everything. "Mommy," Miguel's voice softened, addressing Maria, "I know you always tried to keep peace in the family, but sometimes peace comes at too high a price. The truth must come out." The video ended. The silence that followed was deafening. "The gambling debts," Maria whispered, turning to Carlos. "Is it true?" Carlos slumped onto the sofa, the fight draining out of him. "I thought, if we could sell the house, I could pay them off before anyone knew. By destroying your nephew's inheritance, by slandering your brother's wife." Maria's voice rose with each question. "Que vergüenza. What shame you have brought to our family." Mr. Patterson cleared his throat. "There's more. Miguel's will specifically states that if anyone contests Sarah's ownership or attempts to claim custody of Tommy, their share of his other assets will be forfeited to a trust for Tommy's education." Carlos buried his face in his hands. Maria straightened her spine, years of motherhood and family pride visible in her bearing. "Sarah," she said, turning to me, "can you ever forgive us for today?" I thought of Abuela Rosa's letter, of her words about building something beautiful. "Family," I said softly, "is about love, not blood. Miguel taught me that, and Tommy needs all the love he can get." Maria pulled me into a tight embrace, whispering, "Lo siento, Maija," over and over. Later that evening, after everyone had left, Carlos to face his demons, Maria to make dozens of apology calls to the party guests, Mr. Patterson to file the necessary paperwork, I picked up Tommy from Lisa's house. Is everything okay now, Mommy? He asked as we drove home. Yes, my amor, I answered, using Miguel's endearment. Everything is exactly as Daddy wanted it to be. At home, I found Maria had returned. She cleaned up the party mess, saved the top tier of Tommy's Batman cake, and was waiting with hot chocolate and open arms. Now, she said, pulling Tommy onto her lap, who wants to hear stories about when your daddy was a little boy? As I watched my son snuggle into his grandmother's embrace, I felt Miguel's presence all around us, in the house his grandparents built, in the love that survived betrayal, and the truth that finally set us all free. The pretender had been unmasked, but more importantly, our family, the wounded, was healing, just as Miguel would have wanted.